Councillor Levy. So we'll call to order the meeting of the Environment and Natural Areas Committee for June 10. And we have an agenda before us. Are there any additions or amendments to the agenda that anyone would like to offer?
We have some pinks.
Yes, thank you. So we've got some pinks here, and we've got the pinks are correspondence received on biosolids and some correspondence received on the issue of elimination of pesticides and herbicides. So we'll add those to the agenda at the appropriate points in the discussion. And we're all happy with the agenda. We'll take that by consensus then. There are no presentations tonight. Public participation. We've got 4 minutes. People have the opportunity to speak if they'd like.
Patty Whitehouse, Rocky Point Road. I hold the vision, as I think I told you last meeting, of a day when what we call human waste is not wasted, but is recognized and used as a valuable resource. That day is not yet, because the human waste is combined with other materials that make the biosolids that include considerable amounts of toxic substances. While the biosolids contain these toxic materials, they should not be spread on land. I encourage council to, until we have ways to prevent toxic substances getting into these biosolids or ways to remediate the biosolids so that they aren't there anymore, they should not be spread on land. I encourage council to ban the spreading of biosolids on the chosen land so that we cannot be overruled and have them imposed on us by some other agency.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Chris Moore, 4545 William Head Road. It's probably a little redundant given the number of pinks tonight, which I'm kind of delighted to see. And bear in mind, I did not have access to the letter that went to the CRD. This is obviously on the biosolids. Okay, so far so good. But what I really wanted to say, and why I'm here, is in support of a request to Mayor Council on June 8th, I believe, was submitted by Bev Bacon, resident, regarding the strengthening of Machosen's position with respect to biosolids, specifically applying a ban for biosolids to all of Machosen land. What's the rationale? I think you're sort of getting to know that as well as anyone. On May 27th, I and I believe this gentleman, among others, flagged the ongoing lawsuit in the US of A. Farmers in Texas and elsewhere were embarking on a legal battle with the same biosolid producer as we understand pretends to be the corporation involved locally if it comes to pass. The plaintiffs claim that this application has not only ruined their agricultural land, but has also led to the demise of livestock. So one's left asking, can there be any real difference between farm animals and other wildlife in terms of susceptibility? It's not likely. Granted, as you know, the jury's still out, but why would the chosen of all places play Russian roulette in this biosolid game when on potentially non-agricultural land, when so much is still unknown? But I'm getting the sense that you are not leaning on its application anywhere, and I hope that's valid. Anyway, on this basis, please not only consider, but very publicly act on a Machosen-wide ban biosolids anywhere within our jurisdiction. I can absolutely assure you that this community will be held in high esteem within the CRD and very likely elsewhere for doing so. And here's a little opportunity in this, and I think maybe Councillor Donaldson with your agricultural connections, it costs about $40 plus change to produce a good sized weatherproof sign that could be installed at our local farmers market, reading something like, Machosen does not allow the application of biosolids within its jurisdiction, or whatever words you would care to use, but visible. And you could also marry this up with the grown in Machosen stickers for those that actually do so. This might not only enhance sales, but the public has a need and a right to know where and under what conditions their food grows. So I'll leave that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Katie Nelson, William Head Road, and I would just like to thank the two previous speakers who really put it out so well. I really endorse the idea of Machosen publicly banning them, not just saying we don't welcome them. I think that the CRD has sort of shown by the way they're putting out information that they want to go down this road, and I don't want us to find ourselves in a position where we can't stop them. I think putting out a public ban of applying biosolids in Machosen is the way to go about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Hi, Joe Percival again, and yeah, I just am in support of the folks who've just spoken. Again, the importance, as I see it, of following the principles of precaution, basically. Having known folks myself from the Olympic Peninsula, for example, and what they went through a few years ago, and it's still a struggle. The Environmental Council over there were pretty much at their wits' end trying to deal with the way that biosolids can weave their way into a community in so many different ways. And it struck me that, again, the importance of going right back to basics again, accepting the reality of the problems, the consequences, the severe implications of something like this, allowing the biosolids to arrive in a community can be so terribly disruptive. Again, as was brought forward as well about the Texas situation ongoing, the absolute frustration and struggles of good people in the community to try to stand up for their rights for a safe and a respected livelihood in their communities as farmers. And myself, having been and lived in Machosen for so long and met so many of the farmers and such here, just feeling for the people who give what they can to support the rest of us, to eat well, to eat locally, to have a nourishing food source, and not to be in any way slip into a reality of the quote sludge diet. And we, I think, have an opportunity at this stage of the game to make a very firm commitment that Machosen stands in favor of banning biosolids from the community, and recognizing the insidious qualities that that can allow, as I say, things to enter into a community and disrupt the peaceful, the serene ways that I certainly have known in my days and many years in the Chosen. So again, simply, go back to the precautionary principle. Bottom line, that we know not what we do under the many circumstances, and the recognition that even if the causes and the effects have not been proven scientifically, the reality of the implications of what could happen, and indeed what, as we do know now, currently is happening in other areas, particularly with this very same company that has been contracted within our own community, Sinagra. I believe we have to take an extremely firm stand on that and say that this is not what we want for the community of the Chosen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public participation? Okay. Thanks for everyone who's spoken this evening. The next item on our agenda is adoption of minutes. We have the minutes of the Environment and Natural Areas Committee, May 13th.
Move adoption.
Second.
Thank you. Any concerns or comments? No? All in favor? Thank you. That was moved by Councillor Schuch and seconded by Councillor Eck. Then we've got the receipt of the minutes of the Environmental Advisory Select Committee of May 28th.
Move receipt.
Thank you, Councillor Schuch. And seconded by Councillor Eck. Any comments? No? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Then the business arising from the ask, there's two motions. The first one's on biosolids. And it's calling for Machosen. Ask is suggesting that we recommend to council that we ban biosolid land application in Machosen. And so I'll move that motion, and if there's somebody who would second it.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Schuch. So I just want to express my appreciation to council and to the mayor for the letter to the CRD following the earlier asked recommendations. I think that is well written and well put together. And I'm hoping, we won't know, I guess, for a few days yet, what will happen at the CRD for the long-term solution, but we know they're working on that thermal processing, and that as much as I can hear it in our community anyway, the notion of thermal processing may take the day at the CRD, and that would be great. And thanks, Mayor Little, for your advocacy opposing land application. But I think, as we know from our last meeting, we don't have a big voice at the CRD on this one because we're outside of the sewage discussions in a way, but it remains important. My understanding is there's something like 10 tons a day being produced, and it'll take different people suggest at different time periods, but it's 2 to 5 years or maybe 7 to 10 years to get this other treatment up and going. In the meantime, there's a cement plant I think they're working on, getting the biosolids back there, mine reclamation or application in mines. And then I was looking at the note that Mr. Pett received from the CRD, and it says that in 2023, due to ongoing challenges with existing options, the CRD board amended the policy to allow for non-agricultural application of biosolids as a short-term contingency alternative. So I guess that's what we're looking at. It seems that maybe the long-term question, but in the short term, somebody could start trucking the biosolids here, I suppose. We don't have anything in the way to stop them from putting it down in the Chosen. I wonder if anyone would like to comment about the proposal on the motion. Councillor Schuch.
So thank you, Councillor Gray. I'm in support of the motion, but I think everyone around the table made it very clear that there is no support for land application of biosolids in the Chosen. I think that was universal. I think the letter reads really well, but I'm happy to support the ban and bring this to council for discussion. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, perhaps I'll call the question then. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thanks so much. I want to say thanks to all the people who wrote in as well, giving us good advice or thoughtful advice rather, and it lines up with where we've gone. The second issue that we want to bring forth from MEAS, we were talking about the pesticide, our current policy, elimination of pesticides and herbicides, and for cosmetic purposes on municipal grounds. And we thought, gee, we could really dig into this, but, and we've seen a nice piece of correspondence here too, from this one from Beth Bacon laying out what they've done in Colwood. Before we worked on it too much, we wanted to come to council or come to environment and say, do you want us to work on it? Is it something that would grab people's interest at this table? And if so, then we could dive into it and see what we might do. The notion being that, again, there's another toxin in the environment, we could do a little bit more. My caution is the staff time. Not that this would go to staff at the moment, would go to MEAS, but then we'd be back, saying we want to change a policy, and there's a bunch of effort goes into that. But if the committee were interested in it, then we could work on it further. So it's getting indication from direction from the committee or from council in terms of MEAS doing a little bit more work on it. Councillor Shukin.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. That was my thinking actually, is it would be great to see recommendations from MEAS in terms of what the policy could look like and what amendments would be put forward. And so I'm trying to think of what the mechanics would be now, whether the committee would want to go just send this back to MEAS and request input from them on the policy.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to support that. I have another comment as well. Okay, I'll keep going. The one caution that I would bring forward in terms of an outright ban on pesticides is in relation to invasive species, because we're seeing that chemical treatment of holly, chemical treatment of black knapweed is effective, and in the case of holly, it is needed in terms of the sustained riddance of a species like that. So I think, and that can be addressed as well, even with exemptions may apply in the treatment of invasive species, language like that. So that's
great. Yes, and we heard actually from Kathy Atherton at MEAS meeting, and she made that point, and I think there was complete agreement on the part of the MEAS group as we chatted around. We absolutely need the ability to use some of these poisons against the invasive species.
And sorry, just one, I was talking to Kathy Atherton earlier today. I think she did send us a message. But use of pesticides when after other efforts have been taken as well. So you don't just default to the pesticide. So I think that was a key point she made.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Got it. Mayor Little?
Yeah, so I think these two should be separated, and as Councillor Shukin commented, it's the herbicides that we do use very judiciously, the triclopyr for the black knapweed and garland we use for a spot application for holly in the district, and so those are the herbicides that we use. So similar to what Colwood has done, I would be in favor of, and we can really take from their text, but that's to do with pesticides, not herbicides. And so I like this. I don't think it needs a lot of changing for Machosen. They probably had a lawyer look at this too. We could ask them as well. And it was amended in 2023, so.
Okay, and then we'll be, so I'll take it, I guess do we push this up to council? Do we need to do that, or can this committee get back to me? I'm just realizing that.
I would like to think that this committee could get back to MEASC, and even just in terms of precedence for the other committees that we have, it'd be neat to not, we're the council.
Yeah, let me ask, Mr. Pyatt, that's?
Yeah, that would be fine when you're using council time. So.
Okay. So we'll just take it then that the committee seek further advice from MIASC on expanding the policy. As we've got here, and take that as an action item. All good?
For
Great.
pesticides. Sorry, for pesticides, not necessarily for herbicides.
Sure, well, we take it as a package, and your point is well taken, the definition we want to be clear about. Okay, thank you. Well, maybe we'll move on then to Councillor's update. I just had a few verbal updates to offer. One was I just wanted to officially recognize the effort that was taken, advertising it in the news, conservation success led by the Machosin Foundation involving the BC Parks Foundation and of course the landowners who protected 32 acres of riparian wetland. And then the news this month I guess, about a key biodiversity area being designated at Woody's Beach. And isn't that great news from the volunteer people in our community working so hard on these things and local family and landowners. MIASC has taken a role as PTASC has in doing a referral. I'll watch the clock there quick. We provided Mr. Pyatt information on the Beckingham subdivision proposal, a series of recommendations, trying to look at the subdivision proposal so that it be in accordance with the OCP, minimizing impact of the development on the wetlands, another headwater of Bilston Creek. And we've recommended, or MIASC has recommended that the approving officer, that's Mr. Pratt, welcome the assistance of the province who've offered to help out looking at wetland, riparian and groundwater and with their expertise, just helping us navigate the proposal. The idea being that protecting the wetland functions is really important for us in our OCP, especially given changes in temperature and precipitation, drought and that sort of thing. The wetlands absorb the heavy rains and moderate the flow in the creeks, and then in the other times of year with ongoing drought, water is stored there and it maintains the wetland biodiversity. And then of course the connection between surface water and groundwater or the aquifer. So all of those sort of have been a big part of our considerations in terms of advice. This past week was Oceans Week, and I participated in a stand in downtown Victoria, last week to inform the public about risks to do with deep sea mining to our oceans. I would do that as a councillor, but as a citizen. And we were encouraging ongoing moratorium and an outright ban. The proponents of the mining of the deep sea want to get at rare metals for the green transition, but we think there are other sources and solutions to do that. The CRD water supply master plan, we've got a note up on our website now showing you how you can comment on that. And so check out the district's website. I'm advocating support for a municipal assist factor of 1% and the development, that's an overall. That means the existing users support new development to the least amount possible under the legislation. That's to do with the idea that the benefiter pays. Whoever's getting the water would be paying for it rather than the existing users. And also the development cost charges related to the filtration plant be increased to, that's 35% now. We would say most of that has to be done because of accessing the leach watershed. So development cost charge more in the range of 80% would make sense for that, sticking to the benefiter pay principle. And the final point I would make is that the Trans Mountain pipeline is now shipping diluted bitumen from Burnaby. I think the first Aframax tanker has come through. And we'd, and just to let folks know, I will talk to the CEO and the fire chief about that, as we had a plan some time back to develop a shoreline spill response plan. The ocean plan is going, the question is if it comes ashore, what happens? And it may be, well, it will be, I suppose, things like planning evacuation, and then dealing with health effects and effects on the wildlife in the seashore. So that's to come. And that's the end of my councillor's update. We've got the correspondence here that we've already mentioned, and there's no other business. I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Meeting is now adjourned. Thanks so much. And thanks,